So we're going to discuss empowerment, how they obtained it, how they retained it, and how they give it to others, and why it's important to give empowerment to others. Let me go a little bit back over here. So be careful. This stage doesn't have a... Oh, thank you for that. All right, so let's get started. This question is for all of you, or any of you that want to jump in and answer. We'd like to know a little bit about your career journey, if you can walk us through your career journey.
Okay, all right, let's see.
Hold it down and it turns green.
There we go. No. All right, here we go.
Here, Jodie, swap with me.
Positive signals there. Right.
There we go.
So first of all, congratulations on 40 years. That's quite a journey, and the longevity just speaks for itself. So I grew up in a small town in Washington State, in what was basically an economic and socially challenged family. I knew I wanted to move on and kind of get out and reshape my future, or what seemed like my intended future. So I joined the Air Force, like some. All right. And actually, the aviation industry kind of found me. I went into that field not really knowing what I wanted to do. I just know I needed to change my future, so I needed to take control of that. And so I went into the air traffic control field and just fell in love with it, of course. Who couldn't, right? So I went from there on to the FAA in Southern California, and spent most of my career there in Southern California. And I took some interesting challenges along the way. Took some of this basic kind of staff specialist and different positions at the facility level. And then I got an opportunity in the late 90s to try a program office type of environment, which was the Free Flight Phase 1 program office. It was quite a while ago. It was quite an experiment in acquisition and deployment, but it really opened my eyes to a whole different world. I went on back to manage different facilities. I was in Tucson. I was a deputy at Southern California TRACON, various types of things. Found my way back to headquarters, working for terminal services at the time, when I got an unexpected phone call. It was from the vice president at the time of technical operations, Terry Bristol. I think she was here with you yesterday. She invited me to come over and manage a directorate in tech ops. And at first I thought she was crazy, right? I was an air traffic controller. I didn't really know anything about that side of the fence. But I accepted the challenge. What started as a 6-month detail turned into a 5-year career, or 5-year, actually what I call kind of a love affair with that other discipline in the FAA. And I walked away, ladies, with an appreciation of the other side of the air traffic conversation. You know, our technicians and our engineers are some of the most phenomenal people that I've ever met and had the privilege to work with. But it really rounded out, I think, my understanding of the system, and I'm forever now an advocate and champion of the whole aviation picture, not just the air traffic, which I love dearly, but the whole thing. And that kind of progressed on. I took some lateral moves, and just recently was appointed the permanent vice president of Mission Support Services. So that's my story.
Thank you.
Okay. I took a very different path, and probably a very different path from all of you. I started my career as a flight attendant. So I had gone to college, spent 4 years at Michigan State University, had a degree in marketing communications, and decided that I wanted to travel for a year or two, and started applying for all the airlines. Applied for Pan Am, applied for Eastern. Finally, American Airlines offered me a position as a flight attendant. And I stayed there. I stayed in the airline industry for 30 years. So one of the hallmark moments for me early in my career, I flew for a year and a half. I became a purser. I went into management, and I decided that I wanted to go into sales. So I interviewed with the vice president of sales in New York, in Manhattan, and he was extremely dismissive of me. You know, why would I want to hire you in sales? You're a flight attendant. You don't know anything about how to sell to travel agents. You don't know anything about our automation systems. So I went back totally, totally downtrodden. I had a wonderful boss, a woman, who actually called him up and yelled at him for making me cry, but then directed me to go to the city ticket offices and get a job there as a supervisor and learn the automation system. I did. A year and a half later, I went back and interviewed again. This time, he gave me the job. And a year after that, I had converted American Express to the Sabre system. I'd sold the biggest convention in New York. And he called me into the office and said, okay, where can I find a dozen more just like you? So that, to me, that big experience was, first of all, having a woman to support me, but also the lateral moves. I mean, Jodie mentioned it as well. It is really good for you to take as many lateral moves as you can early in your career. As I rose through my career, I had marketing, I had sales, I had safety programs, I had health and safety for flight attendants, I had labor relations experience, I had managing a large budget. At United, I managed $1 billion catering budget. All of those things were the foundation for the job I have today, and is the reason that I was offered the job that I have today. So.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Oh, here we go, Shelly.
Well, good morning, everybody. My path is very much different. I just recently celebrated 33 years of government service. 33 years. I started with the government very young. My first job, I was a mailman. And yes, that was the title. My first federal job was mailman. It changed to letter carrier very quickly after that. Certainly was not a career I sought or planned on. I was 18 years old. My older brother took the civil service exam, and as kids do, he convinced me to come with him. Come with him, take this test with me. I scored 98. 6 months later, they sent me a call-in notice and offered me 4 times the salary I was making. Well, then, I broke my parents' heart when I told them I'm going to put off school for a year. I'm going to go, I'm going to take this job and make as much money as I can. So that was my plan. Well, what does an 18-year-old do that's making that kind of salary? You buy a lot of things, right? So at the end of that year, I had a brand new IROC Z28. I was in the process of buying a house, and suddenly, there's no way I'm leaving this job. However, I live in Chicago. My service comp date is January 2nd. A foot of snow, 50 below wind chills. You know what that job taught me? What I didn't want to do. Not that it wasn't an honest day's living, don't get me wrong, but I very quickly went into management. And so my first management position, I was supervisor of delivery and collections. That's the operations side in the Postal Service. And then I took that typical operational career path. I became a superintendent of operations, which is, kind of like our OMs here. And then I was postmaster, facility manager of 4 different facilities, all of different levels, varying from 20 employees to 225 employees. And you'll find this ironic. In the mid-90s, Congress, the Postal Service, was going through very strained labor management relations. And Congress stepped in and said, folks, if you don't fix it, we're going to fix it for you. And at that time, the agency took a step back, and like most agencies' human resource departments, they did not have the number of resources to take on the challenge that was before them in their call to action. So they reached out to several operational managers and asked them, as a collateral duty, will you step in, will you help us wrangle this? And it was a big push to reduce the volume of grievances and to actually start working on improving that relationship. And at first I was like, are you kidding me? I take care of my stuff in my own facility because I don't want those people touching my stuff. And now you want me to go be one of those people? And my boss said, that's exactly why we want you in there doing that. And I found my passion, I found my niche. And it was a huge career change for me to go from being, operational to move into this support organization. But that's what I did. And I felt like I was like really making a difference. And then I was giving a presentation. You just don't know where opportunities come from. I was given a presentation on arbitration hearings at Kent College. They have an annual arbitration conference in Chicago. And I was approached afterwards by somebody from the FAA and asked me if I would be interested in meeting with her and talk about a job. I had no intentions of leaving my job, but I'm always open to listen. And so I did, and then I came to the FAA in 2004. I was the lead labor relations person in Great Lakes region. From there, I moved to a headquarters position, which I was the director of LR field labor relations, responsible for the LR shops in the 9 regions, 2 centers. And then I came over to ATO in 2012. I moved into ATO. I had the opportunity for a 2-year detail at headquarters as the Director of Labor and Employee Development. And then from there, I made another decision. I live in Chicago. My family lives in Chicago. My grandson is in Chicago. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And I made another decision, and it led to the position that I am in now as the senior advisor to that. And I've had some tremendous opportunities. When I first came to the FAA, soon afterwards, the White Book was implemented, and I thought to myself, oh, now I know why you came up to me after that conference. I mean, it was very obvious to me at the time, and I did have the opportunity to lead implementation from an HR role of the Red Book, and then a highlight of my career was leading implementation of the Slate Book from my ATO role. So.
Very good. I mean, ADSAP, right? I mean, like, holy moly, all these programs. All right, so here we go.
Oh, microphone.
I'm not loud enough? Okay. Oh, that's right, I have the one that, let's see. Maybe I can get it.
Push the button.
All right, Kurt. Here we go, it's working.
Some tech ops people in here, right?
It's on green. Yeah, there we go. All right, Jodie, you're up.
All right, I was
Okay.
watching, sorry.
Training opportunity that you did that you would recommend for others.
Training up. There's so many great programs out there, and Beth's really the expert on all of those. I think she'll get into that. But one of the greatest things I did, the SLDP and TOLDP, all those things weren't around when I was coming up 35 years ago. So, but I did take an opportunity to go to the Federal Executive Institute, and this was long before I was an executive. That program's really intended for folks that want that desire to go into executive service. What was interesting to me about that is I was exposed to people from different agencies, and when you interact with folks from different agencies, you find all the commonalities. And you also find, some of the differences. But what that did for me, again, going back to my story, leave home, get into the Air Force. Like Shelly mentioned, my education took a back seat. And early in the years, I did go back to Embry-Riddle and get my bachelor's degree. But coming out of coming out of FEI, I made a decision to go ahead and go get my master's degree. And so I entered another program at American University that is geared towards government agencies and nonprofit. And again, just kind of expanding my view of government service and public service particularly was one of the most valuable things I've ever encountered. So that's probably my one example.
Okay, this question I know is for Beth, but oh my God. Okay, here we go. This could be for any of you or all of you. Beth, I know you're the lead on this one. What was the biggest obstacle and how did you overcome it? in your career?
So many obstacles, so many mistakes, so many failures. You know, you don't really think of them as obstacles because every time you make a mistake, every time somebody pushes you back 2 steps, you can move forward 3. So probably, I mean, one of my favorite experiences in my career was starting an airline. I worked with a group to start a little airline in Newark, New Jersey called Kiwi International Airways. None of us had ever started an airline before, and we ran into so many obstacles. Governmental, FAA, ICAO. I mean, there were just, you know, obstacles thrown in our path all along the way. But what we learned we had to do was to stumble, to get back up, and to try again. You know, when I came to the FAA, I feel very, very fortunate that there was an opening at the time to run the ATSAP program because I had the safety programs experience and because I feel so passionately that the way you learn is by making mistakes. So I would say don't think of obstacles, think about how the mistakes can make you better.
Very good. Anyone else? Nope.
I could share mine. I mean, interestingly, to me, the obstacles for me, I think the greatest ones were my first job and my current job. So my first management job and my current job. In my first management job, remember I said that whole mailman thing or letter carrier that I quickly went into management? Yeah, about a year. I was promoted to a frontline manager. I think I had 18 months of service. I was not old enough to drink in a bar, but I had 40 bargaining unit employees reporting to me. So yeah, that was a challenge. It was very hard to be taken seriously. I couldn't make myself older. I couldn't give myself more experience. So what I lacked there, I had to make up for in hard work and knowledge and actually getting involved in several different things. And then the next time, when I made the decision to move to ATO, and I'm looking at Trish because she's going to remember this, there was a lot of people that discouraged me and said, you're not a 2152. You've never been a 2152. They'll never accept you. You'll be working with a bunch of air traffic controllers and you're just not going to fit in. Well, I will tell you, I took the chance, and they're wrong. I actually do fit in. And I think bringing the diversity of not being a 2152 actually brings a lot to the table in conversations and options, and it's what we preach in collaboration all around. In whether we're talking next gen development, this is no different. So just having that diversity and that diverse knowledge in those critical conversations took a barrier and made it a positive.
And I was one of those people that said that to her.
I know that. I know that.
Okay, so we know that basically life is about fork on the road choices. So if you had to do it all over again, what would you change? All of you.
All of us, okay.
All of us.
Well, I think what you'll probably hear a lot from all 3 of us is the power of the lateral moves. And I think if I look back on the last 35 years, I would probably take a deep breath, step back, and think about preparing myself better at a lateral level along every tier instead of thinking about climbing that ladder and competing and getting that next job up. Because as I look back, my biggest growth and strength has come from that lateral move in another discipline that taught me another piece of the story. And so I think I would spend a little bit more time working across instead of trying to climb.
And I would become a FAA employee far earlier in my career than I did. You know, the 30 years with the airlines, I learned so much, but some of my most difficult moments also were in the airline business as airlines went out of business, as they filed for bankruptcy, as they turned pensions over to the PBGC. At TWA, I laid off 4,000 people. And in the airline business, when you furlough someone, you don't send them home for a day or two and they get paid later. you send them home, in some cases, forever. So they lost careers, they lost livelihoods, families were broken up. I mean, the airline business is a very tough business. It's a lot of fun, but it's a very tough business. We are so lucky here. We have so many advantages being government employees, the opportunity for a pension, for retiree medical, for the leave opportunities that we have. I mean, there are things we could do to improve our lot, but I'll tell you, we are very, very lucky. And I would have definitely have wanted to come work for the FAA earlier in my career so I could have had more opportunity to earn those benefits.
I would have taken the air traffic control exam instead of the civil service exam. Okay. Kidding aside, no regrets. I mean, all those things I think gave me the experience to find me maybe what I am today. So no regrets. The one job, that I did have that I moved into in a labor relations side, it was a specialized job, and it was an administrative litigation unit. And that's all I did. I represented the agency in arbitration, EEO hearings, and MSPB hearings. And I did that job for about 2 years. And you were doing, probably 35, 40 hearings a year. And I learned from that I want to be on the front end. I don't want to be on the back end. I I want to influence the decisions on the front end, not be the one cleaning up the mess on the back end. And so while it was, a career path that I wound up not enjoying as much as I thought, I learned so much from it. So I don't really have many regrets.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all. So let's move to empowerment. So let's start with Shelly again. Okay, how have you empowered others? Did you have role models that inspired you or shaped your career?
So in empowering others, I do sit, as does Beth, as does Trish, on our National Collaborative Steering Committee at the headquarters level. And that committee, I've been on it since the beginning, since it was formed in early 2010, and that group really provided the leadership and forged forward collaboration as we know it today. And that's a pretty simple one as far as empowering employees to be involved and make decisions, empowering work groups. And so we do that all the time. But in my day-to-day role, I'm often called upon to help facilities navigate through, whether it be, facility managers and fact reps or just a manager, folks to navigate through situations or tricky things. And I really work hard to not tell them what to do. And so when they call and they say, what do I do here? I work very, very hard to understand, what are you trying to achieve? These are your options. These are your pros and cons. Because if I tell them what to do, they're going to learn nothing. They're going to walk away and say, I'm doing this because Shelly said I have to. But if I actually take the time to walk through all the options and the pros and cons and likely outcomes of each of those options, then they are empowered to make their own decision and own that decision going forward. So that's what I do.
Excellent. That's like instead of giving somebody a fish, teach them to fish, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry, did either of you want to jump in there? You're good? Okay, well, Jodie, how have you influenced the next generation of new FAA employees?
Well, I often get the opportunity to coach and mentor folks and talk them through the journey that they're on. But one of the most incredible things that's going on right now is I think we're kind of facing probably the most historic time in aviation that, gosh, we have since the Wright brothers probably, as we really try to mainstream unmanned aircraft into the system. And this is going to take a set of folks that can really look at things with a clean slate, with new ideas, and not hold our biases over the last 30-some years on how this can't work. And so I spend a lot of time talking to people, particularly young women that want to start out their career, and really to try to encourage them to look at this as a new beginning in aviation, because it's an incredible time between UAS and commercial space and so many other things. Just encourage fresh thinking and ideas to come into the system.
Beth, what do you think women bring to the table that benefits an organization like the FAA?
Oh, so much. I mean, this is going to sound probably very sexist, so if men are in the room, don't report me, but women have, in my opinion, personal opinion, women have so much more empathy and caring. They understand what makes people tick. Like Shelly said, don't tell them what to do, make them reach the decision, and then they will own the decision themselves. They are kinder, they listen better. I mean, it is so important in business, as in your personal life, to have a balance. I am very fortunate. My deputy is a female, but I have 2 males and 2 females on my direct staff, and it's the balance that makes it all work. Everybody's different. Everybody has different strengths, different weaknesses, but without women in the workplace, it would be a far less interesting place to work.
Diverse, more diverse.
Yep.
Did either of you have anything else to add to that, or? No, you're good? All right. Okay. Let's go to individual questions now. All right. Given that most facility employees, Jodie, have operational time barriers, and you're very familiar, having gone from the ATCS, CPC, to staff, and then supervisory and so forth, how have you seen it work out best? How has it been more successful to be able to educate yourself as you progress as a from a CPC to a supervisor and so forth?
Right, a lot of years of shift work and overtime and all of that I know most people in here are very familiar with. And I think the bottom line is that our careers and our development and our preparedness is really our own responsibility. The FAA certainly offers incredible programs, but sometimes that is hard as you're trying to work, your shift work, and with Tuesday and Wednesday off, I think I had for like 10 years. So you just have to kind of take it into your own hands and find that extra, your discretionary time. If it's night school, if it's a group you join, look at this wonderful PWC opportunity and all the learning and networking that comes along here. But you just have to own it and find those times using your discretionary time while not ignoring yourself, your personal life. I think women tend to do that a lot. We tend to suffer in silence and try to be everything to everybody, and something has to give. So you've got to find that balance, and you have very little discretionary time, but it's about prioritizing it and choosing your path.
Thank you. And Beth, on employee development, can you elaborate and tell us all you know on
All I
employee
know.
development?
All I can remember off the top of my head, well, we have so many employee development opportunities. Some of them are FAA opportunities. FAA HR offers the Program for Emerging Leaders, which is for people who aspire to be supervisors. For new managers, there's the new managers course at FLY, something that they call FLY, Federal FAA, I forget what it stands for. Anyway, Annie will tell you what it stands for. And then the SLDP, the Senior Leadership Development Program, those are all corporate programs. Just in the ATO, we offer what I often call non-technical training for the technical workforce. So after the new managers course, we have success in your first year. For new supervisors, it's now a requirement within their first year to go to this class and learn how to be an air traffic supervisor or a tech ops supervisor, not just a general supervisor in the FAA. We have the programs that our SUPCOMs promote, the air traffic ops soup workshop, the tech ops FLOMO, which our folks help to build the curriculum and develop and deliver. We have, we used to have ATLDP, that's been put on the shelf for a while. It was a program for AT folks to leadership development program. We still are offering Tech Ops Leadership Development Program, TOLDP. There's an aspiring ATM program. There's an aspiring Tech Ops Manager program. There's a ongoing second level manager program. We kind of saw a gap in what the FAA was offering, in that they were offering very early in the career and then senior leadership programs. FEI is a Federal Executive Institute Development Program, but we started offering the second level manager program, which has been going on for a year, to train folks who are first level supervisors who would like across ATO to consider second level opportunities. Again, that lateral move opportunity is huge. And then we have now new, the OMLDP for Ops Managers Leadership Development Program, because again, that was kind of that missing middle level. I'm sure I've forgotten a handful of them, but if you have any interest in any of these programs, go to My ATO Career on the FAA website, and everything is there. There's also lots and lots of webinars and study at your own pace opportunities and virtual learning opportunities. I forgot Leaders Teaching Leaders, which is our folks in the facilities teaching the leaders of the future. But it's all there, because I'll never remember everything. There's just too much. Succession planning program, yep. Yep, no, we have excellent programs in the ATO and the FAA, and they're all available for you.
I think we counted, what, 24?
24 is what you counted.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them that you counted were pretty obscure, like the White House Leadership Development Program. I think I've told a couple of people in this room, as far as I know, we've not had anyone selected for that program, but it's there. It's still available.
There's a goal now.
There's a goal. Somebody should be selected for that program. But there are just a lot of programs for women and for everyone.
So My ATO Career, write it down. Let me tell you, unbelievable, all the stuff.
Yeah, it
And
is.
and also in the
Interview stream, you could practice an interview,
Right.
virtually. Amazing stuff.
and on the My FAA page, you can also go to the, I think it's Tools and Resources and Talent Development, and you're all the talent the FAA wants to develop. So there you go. Okay, so then let's go to Shelly. Your labor and management expertise is wanted. What advice would you give someone aspiring to be an air traffic manager? What tools do they need in their toolbox?
For labor relations or
Yes.
to be?
Well, I mean, to excel as an air traffic manager, I would think that labor management relations would be number one.
I think the obvious is, you're going to have general knowledge of the statute and your collective bargaining agreement, but you have lots of resources available to that. The competencies, though, the most important one, and this is, again, my opinion, is the ability to build relationships. And I'm not talking just relationships with your facility rep or counterpart. I'm talking relationships across the board. A mentor that I had early in my career, and I always remembered this, and I try to pass it on, was develop a relationship with at least one person in every single department of the agency so that you have your go-to. You always have your go-to, and that is something that certainly I know helps me. Now, of course, if somebody's going to be your go-to, you've got to be their go-to back, or you're going to lose them pretty quickly. Dispute resolution, conflict resolution skills. I think that building competencies in communication, both verbally and written, because many labor management disputes are really a result of inferior communication, and when you really dig into it, you find that the dispute isn't really there. So those would be some of the competencies that I would focus on.
So Maria, I actually have a go back, because I forgot something. If you are not interested in management, or you're not sure if you want to go into management, do not discount the opportunities for learning that NACA offers. So NACA has excellent training programs for FAC reps and RVPs. I don't know of any finer leader in the FAA than that lady right there, Trish Gilbert. So don't discount those opportunities.
Absolutely. And Trish, did you want to tell me the number of courses that you guys offer?
I could.
Sure, thank you for that. That was very, very nice. I appreciate that. So NACA does, there are opportunities for growth in NACA, and many of you are very active in the union already. There are leadership courses, there are officer training for facility reps, secretary treasurer, FAC rep. We do safety courses, we do legislative training. We also do hands-on legislative work where you come in and you hit the hill for 2 days after you get a day of training. We do that every year, and we're continually trying to increase the activism in our membership by education, through education. We're now introducing more webinars. And so all of those are there for you if you want to be active, you know, in your facilities. It's really a matter of what you are interested in and where you want to put your time. Even if it's just some time on your break, say I want to organize the next Christmas party. If it's that simple, that's really important as well. That camaraderie that's developed at those events in your facility are very important. Or you say, I want to go to NAC in Washington and hit the hill next year, or this year. It's actually a month from now. I can't believe it. Hopefully I get some rest before then. But so there's a lot of opportunities there. If you're interested, certainly you can come talk to me. I'll be at the Speed Networking tonight. We can talk about the opportunities there, and I can answer any questions there. Thanks.
Thank you. And all our panelists will also be at the Speed Networking event tonight. Yay! Okay, so I think Jodie may have touched on this, but basically what I'd like to know is if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give them? What's the best advice you got from?
Well, it may be a bit of a repeat, but I think just preparedness is really key, and to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint, because you just exhaust yourself getting there. But take advantage of those unexpected opportunities, like the tech ops example that I offered. That was something that was never in my thought process or in my sights as an air traffic person trying to navigate through that air traffic ladder, and it changed my career path. It changed who I am as a person in the FAA. It opened my eyes to so much more. So when somebody asks you to take that crazy opportunity that doesn't seem like a great fit, really give it some thought and step out there, because you just don't know what doors it'll open.
Thank you. And I think Dr. Darden yesterday had the 4 Ps, or the Ps to the 4th power. Remember that? So that goes right along with what you were saying. Preparation, persistence, I think, was another one. What were the other Ps? Okay, this is a quiz question. What were the other Ps?
Oh.
Excellent. There you go. Beautiful. See, long ago, I was an operations manager in the flight service option. For those of you that do not know that, there was an excellent NATCA rep that I work with on a regular basis. He's passed since, but he told me that in the Navy, they had 7 Ps. That's a lot. Who's here from the Navy? Any Navy reps?
Okay.
Ooh, okay. So he said in the Navy, they have proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
That's awesome.
We didn't use that kind of language in the Air Force.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so let's go on. Next one up. Here we go. This is also for all of you. As you know, like the FAA, PwC believes a lot in assisting professional and personal development of all. And we're kind of wondering, what else, could you think of other stuff that PwC could do to help our employees more? I mean, is there anything that comes to mind that we could kind of integrate or change or?
Shelly, you and I were talking about that, right?
We were. I mean, well, first of all, this right here, I mean, this is fantastic. These are, anytime you go to a formal training, an in-person formal training, let's not kid ourselves. Where do you get the most out of it? At nighttime, over a glass of wine, in the hall. I mean, supporting each other, sharing experiences. The whole better together isn't just a pairing of food. You know, we need to rely on each other. We all have different experiences and value to bring to those conversations. And you know, we got to get past that stereotype that working with women are catty. It's hard to work with women. I know so many women that say, I would rather work with men. Well, why? Because the women are catty. We should be supporting each other and working through those. So I really think relying on each other is a big part. And you guys are doing a lot already.
We're each other's support system.
Absolutely.
And for those of you, I don't know if BJ is in the room, but yesterday I was speaking with her, and she was saying, you're not competing against other women. You're competing against yourself. Very true.
So the PwC Mentor Program is pretty amazing. I saw Lynette up here earlier, and she's been running that for years. If you haven't participated in that mentor program, I would say take advantage of it. They just offer wonderful learning opportunities, and you know, I volunteer for that every year and will continue to as long as I'm here. I just think it's great to bring along the next generation. Yeah.
Oh, and I do want to say at this time, we want to thank you for contributing to our PwC newsletter. She wrote an article, I don't know if you remember back in, 2016, I think it was, on mentoring. So thank you.
So a marketing minute, just in case we run out of time later. I need my marketing minute right now. I want to challenge all of you in the room to do something for us and for our future. So the only way we're going to better be able to empower women is if we have more of them. And we're going to have an open announcement coming up June 25th for air traffic controllers, both with CTI, school experience, military experience, and off the street. Each of you think of a way to encourage 10 more women to apply, and that would be the best thing that you could do to improve the future and empower more women in the future. We, and Maria may be getting into this, but we are 24% female in the FAA. Air traffic controllers, about 16% female, and we've been stuck at that 16%. 16.3. Well, I have a piece of information for you that I did mention at a PwC event about a month ago, but Courtney asked about it, so if he tells you this later, you tell him that you already heard it from me. But in the first quarter of our 2017 recruiting effort, well, the first quarter of the 2018 recruiting effort, which was the last quarter of calendar year 2017, our new hires were 23% female. So that's only one quarter. One quarter does not a trend make, it does not a wave make, it does not a future changing difference make, but we're heading in the right direction. And if we can continue to encourage more women to apply, we will hire more women and we will be able to empower more women. So
Slow
thank
and
you.
steady progress.
Yeah.
Your words.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I was afraid we'd run out of time and I wouldn't get my marketing minute.
Oh, okay. One question I have for Shelly is, well, as we all know, staffing resources and the budget is a challenge throughout the FAA, specifically in facilities. Given that this is occurring and there's no end in immediate sight, what would you recommend people do to develop themselves and leverage what may be available to them through the FAA?
So I think Beth touched on, and you touched on the website as well. We have so much available to us at low or no cost options. Our ELMS platform, I hold a HR certification that has to be renewed through continuing education every 3 years. And so And it's an application process, and they audit the courses, and you have to submit. Most of our ELMS courses actually meet the curriculum for HRCI's certification. So I mean, the courses that are in there, if you dig into them, there's some really good ones in there. And there are some that will even transfer into college credit at times. There's shadowing opportunities. There's mentors that you can rely on. There's you know, you don't have to wait for that scheduled training class to develop yourself. You know, sometimes you just got to take it on yourself and find those opportunities. And there's plenty of them out there.
Okay, so how many knew that you could get college credits through ELMS courses? Look at that, see? Excellent. Okay, so let's see. Given that you broke the glass ceiling, as have others, do you think the FAA has shown improvement in the selection of women for mid-level to executive level positions?
Of course we do. You know, I think that one of the benefits of being only 24% female is that folks in leadership positions at the FAA are very cognizant that we must promote and empower women into management positions, into higher level positions. I have always found at the FAA being a female an advantage. So I don't think I got any job because I was a woman. I think I got a job because I was the most capable applicant, but being a woman didn't hurt.
And I would say to other women, especially young women, because when I was coming out, I was young then, if you don't make your desires known, I have seen people assume that somebody may not be interested in something because they have young children at home. Or you know, they just got married, they're planning a family, she probably doesn't want this opportunity or this detail. And I see a lot of heads nodding. And so, you know, I think as leaders, we got to let people make their own decisions and not assume that that woman doesn't want to do that. But I think as women, we need to encourage each other to make those desires known if you're looking for development and not wait because, you know, unintentionally, you know, no harm intended, they've just in good conscience thought maybe you would not be interested, and that may not be true.
So that's interesting you say that because it sounds just like what Dr. Darden said yesterday, right? Make what you're interested in known to your supervisor. Follow through. Excellent advice. Okay, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to bring up? No? Okay. All right. I have more questions. We'll get to the question and answer session. Relax, we'll get there. I got more stuff for them. Okay, here we go. Invest in yourself and the FAA will invest in you. Terry Bristol discusses that on a routine basis as that was part of her platform in getting to her current position. So, like, what is your understanding exactly of that statement?
Terry used to talk a lot about the career lattice versus the career ladder. I don't know if that's something she actually mentioned yesterday, but it is about being the most prepared and being in it for the long game and investing in yourself by education and taking opportunities that others aren't willing to take and being the most prepared when the selections are made.
But don't be afraid to take a break if you need to. I mean, I have 3 sons. My husband and I have 3 sons. And I worked part-time when they were little because I wanted to have the opportunity to spend time with them. I went back to work when the twins were 3. My oldest one was just going to kindergarten. And I think I found that the fact that I was working and had that time with them made them probably better able to attack preschool and kindergarten and experiences in school and after-school activities because they had the self-confidence that they needed to do that because I wasn't there by their side at every minute. But I did take a break for 3 or 4 years from my career to spend the time at home with them, and it really didn't hurt at all. As a matter of fact, it probably helped because I did one of those lateral moves to work part-time. But, you know, there have been many things said about when when you're old and gray, that you won't have any regrets about the meeting that you didn't attend, but you will have a regret if you didn't attend your son's recital or your daughter's, sing along. So take the time and spend it with your family and your grandson.
I'm making up for it with the grandson.
There you go.
Well, I can't come close to quoting Barbara Bush, but I think recently one of her famous quotes recently was, "You'll never regret a day spent with your husband or your family and all that." And what an amazing life she led, but still really kept things in perspective about the family. So.
That's an excellent segue into my next question, which is the work-home paradigm. Now, some experts say that there's really no perfect balance to a work-home paradigm, and if there is, it's a temporary balance at best. What would you say to that? Any of you?
I know I'm very fortunate that when I had young children at home, that we didn't have mobile devices, and I couldn't be getting emails 24 hours a day, because when I was home, I was able to be home. Yes, there was phone calls and there were pages and stuff, but I was able to spend that time with them. Even now, I think it's important, if you have aspirations, that you are available outside of the traditional workday, but under your kind of desires. So if dinner with your family is dinner with your family, you don't check your mobile device during dinner with your family. If Sunday is your family day, you take Sunday totally off and spend it with your family. So all the mobile devices and the email and the text messages have made it more difficult. But on the other hand, you don't always have to be in the office to be working. So you can go to a lacrosse game or a recital and still be responsive and working as well. So I guess it's plus and minus, but you have to find that balance. You have to make time for yourself and your family.
Just do the best you can, kind of. It's a daily struggle, but we all, do what we can to. Again, we try to be all things to all people, but it's just impossible, and we burn ourselves out at the end of the day.
So protecting personal time, personal home time. Okay. All right, so this is my last one before we get to the question and answer, so you can start lining up, and you can ask them questions on anything you want, like any of their projects that they're currently working on, not just empowerment. I'll give you that latitude. Okay, so here's the last question. So we're all wearing lovely blue shades today, yes?
Yes.
And of course, it's representing of hope, new hope actually, for a harassment-free workplace and none of the historical comments that are unprofessional and so forth. Where do you think the FAA is at this point there in that goal? What's your gut feeling?
I think we have challenges. I think anytime you have a workplace that is predominantly one gender or the other, there are going to be challenges. But I think that the new Respect Initiative is just now rolling out. It's a joint initiative with NECA and management. I think if we keep at top of mind that we need to respect one another, we can improve. We can definitely do better, but we're going to have challenges.
And I would just say, so every job I have ever held, it's been predominantly males. Everywhere I work is predominantly male. I mean, certainly all my NACA counterparts, with the exception of Trish, are males. So I tell women, you don't have to be one of the guys. Don't try to be one of the guys. And if you try to be one of the guys, I think that's when you run into some of those things. And be yourself. And it's, you ask what PwC can do. We can lead by example and start changing some of those stereotypes of women. That they can't make tough decisions or that they can't. And I think so if we continue to lead by that. But you don't have to get into sports or learn how to play golf if that's not what you want to do to fit in. It's okay to have female hobbies and still work with predominantly male workforce.
You know, it's interesting you say golf because during my era in, you know, trying to be promoted through the ranks, as they say,
golf.
if you did not play golf, you were outside that boys' group of discussions that was happening after work hours.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you want to play golf, but I'm just saying you don't.
Okay, so question and answers, and please use the mics, please, on either side.
Oh, Patty's first.
Watch out.
She was in OMLPP too.
So first off, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. But I want to tell you a comment that was said, and I would like to know what you guys think about it. And then I'll tell you what I think about it. So when we talk about the 16.33%, and the response to this number was, well, you know, you're looking at it the wrong way. Because in the aviation industry, we actually lead as far as females are concerned. If you're looking at pilots, if you're looking at dispatchers, their percentage is lower. So we think we're doing pretty, okay, that wasn't said. I shouldn't say that part. But literally, that's what the individual said, that we're looking at it the wrong way. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about that statement.
I think it's absolutely wrong. I mean, you know, in the aviation industry, in the flight attendants world, it's 80% female. And they're safety professionals as well. But what I go back to what I said, which is a balanced workplace. You're going to have a healthier, more productive workplace if it's a balanced workplace. The profession of being an air traffic controller is phenomenal. You have wonderful pay and benefits and job stability and opportunities for growth. We need to get more women into the profession because we deserve a job like that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Because when I heard
And what do you think of that? You were going to tell us what you think.
I will tell you, when I heard that, I said that is complete Bravo Sierra. That is not the way we look at it. We look at it the other way.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm Jamie Fieger. Hi, Beth.
Hey, Jamie.
Just, I have one question, and I just have a statement. I'm the Program Education and Career Development Program Manager for PwC. I do have relationships with Brian Easley, who is the person who runs the White House Leadership Development course. So I am very passionate about making sure that we do get somebody into that program. It's a great program. So if you have questions, just send me an email. There are also great 24/7 books. So we didn't mention that on the ELMS course, but any leadership books that you want to get in a hold of are free 24/7 on ELMS. So you can go on there. There's great webinars from other leaders in industry that you can watch and gain some knowledge from. My question for you guys is, earlier this year, there was legislation proposed by some congresswomen for the Professional Women in Aviation Act. And that was a legislation proposed to direct the FAA to create a Women in Aviation Advisory Board. And more importantly, to help direct the FAA to look at how to empower more women to become more involved in the aviation industry. And what are the barriers to those causes? So I'm just curious if you guys have had conversation on that legislation that has been proposed and what your thoughts are on it.
We have not. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I chair a women's advisory committee for the FAA, but it's really internal FAA. It's not industry. But to do something like that on an industry basis, I think would be great.
Thank you.
Come on, don't be afraid. Come on, they don't bite. Not hard anyway.
Hi, good morning. My name is Suzanne Gould, and up until very recently, I was a team manager in labor and employee development, and I had the distinct pleasure of working very closely with Shelly and also with Beth. And I just wanted to share an anecdote. I don't have a question. Not long ago, I received an email from a very senior manager in the ATO asking me about a particular article in the contract, Article 114 collaboration. And in my response back to that manager, I copied my director, Greg Ricketts, and I also copied Shelly because Shelly is all-knowing. And I responded. I had several email exchanges with this manager talking about specific section of Article 114. And when that exchange was over, Shelly emailed me. I think she copied Greg, and she's like, perfect response. You know, she gave me a lot of encouragement and just said, you know, that was exactly the right thing to say. And I wrote back, and I said, well, I've had a really great mentor. And she writes me back, and she says, okay, I'm going to be nosy. Who is your mentor? And I said, it's you. And she was, I really think she was surprised at my response, very unassuming, and I just want to share with people that even if you don't realize that you are mentoring and empowering and supporting other people, you are doing that. So it's important to keep that in mind. And Lolly and I are very appreciative of the experiences that we've been able to have in AJG and just the support of everybody. So I want to say thank you.
Hello, I just have I have a comment first. We were talking about ELMS courses for college credit. The Academy, you also get college credit for that, for anybody. I was sent to the Academy 2 semesters before I finished my bachelor's degree. I waited nearly 4 years between offer letter and Academy date. So I ended up getting 20 credits for Academy. So if anybody wants that, working on a degree, it's free. You got paid to go to the Academy, but they're going to give you college credits. So, you know, that's there. But leadership development programs. Are there any, this is also probably a little bit for Trish, and if Paul is in here too, but I'm interested in doing leadership development, but I also don't want to forego my NACA, my union duties. I'm a LSC member, and I'm a SME at my facility. So I don't know, is there options for me with leadership?
So that's a constitutional issue that was passed at a previous NACA convention, and I'll give you the background on the thought process there. Is certainly there are a lot of opportunities to develop yourself and then rise in different career paths, whether it's through NACA or through management. The issue is for us is that and the discussion at the convention where that passed and the perspective that we are bringing to that issue is that as a representative for the union, you are representing the entirety of the workforce. And there's a belief that if you're in that role, that you could possibly have a conflict of interest as you bind our organization to an agreement at the same time you're trying to promote yourself into a management.
Well, I don't have any intention of going into management. I just want to, well, I might later in my career. I don't believe, I think I'm a career controller, personally. Right. But I just think that a program like that would help me throughout my life and through with the career too. I don't have to be in management to be a good leader.
So this is the debate that should take place at a NACA convention if you want to change the way it is worded and open it up, but that is the history of it. We had many reps trying to get promotions at the same time making agreements with their management counterparts to help facilitate those promotions. So that is the background of where that resolution and that language came from. Okay. So in order to change that and open it up or be a little bit more, I guess just open it up, it needs to occur at a NACA convention with debate like this, like you and I are having, about what are all the other maybe unintended consequences of the way it's worded and then the way it's in place. It's really a democratic process. It's not even a decision Paul and I can make on our own. It is what the convention delegates have decided. Okay. And to change it, it can be changed. I mean, we just need to do it in that venue. Okay. But that is the background of it. Okay. Interestingly enough, we've also had the issue with some of our Article 114 reps. They represent our union with companies, Lockheed Martin, Leidos, Raytheon, and they're representing and binding our organization to positions for the organization. And then tomorrow, they're at work for Lockheed Martin. So we're trying to address that issue as well. So it's not just at this level, it is at that level as well. Paul and I sign agreements saying that we will not do those kinds of things. We will not, make agreements on behalf of the people we represent and then show up tomorrow and be working either for the FAA or for any of the, industry companies that we work with very closely. So that's the history.
Okay, so
But in
Houston,
the meantime, go to ELMS and click on the tools if you want to improve your writing skills, if you want to improve your collaborative skills.
The
There's
skills
all of these webinars and virtual classes that you can take
The old
advantage of
skills
without
stuff.
running afoul of the NECA.
is it the Skillsoft stuff?
Yes, the
Okay,
Skillsoft.
Yeah,
and the
I got
24/7 books.
I got a bunch of
there's
those
lots.
done, and yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But, all right, so Houston 2020?
Yes.
All right, I'll be there, all right.
Thank you,
So-
Trish.
Good morning. I just wanted to, a couple things. I wanted to just touch base on the fact, I know you guys had talked about earlier about the interview streaming tool and stuff like that. I just want to say thank you very much for that because I know it was sent to me. It is on our website. You have access to it. You just have to go underneath our resources. We also have on here for our education and career, personal branding, which I know Gaynell Dudley's here. I know a lot of you guys have talked about that. Our senior leadership training, career opportunities. We have a lot of these resources available because of these ladies sending us this information. We wanted to get it out to you, so please utilize these resources. They're giving them to us. They are for you. It is a benefit of being a member. Use them. You've got them available to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, ladies, for being here. I'm Louise Ocasio. I also wanted to mention, putting in a plug, Skillsoft has an app that you could put on your phone, and you could access books on like Adobe, communication, Excel, difficult communications, leadership. You could also have it on your phone. Oh, so there's an app that you could download, and it links to your ELMS.
Had to be said.
I appreciate all the support. You guys know more about this than I do.
And there's incredible awareness. So,
Yeah?
Yeah, so that's good.
So Beth, you mentioned ATLDP, and I know it's on the shelf. I hope you guys bring it off the shelf as soon as possible. I had the opportunity to help be on the pilot of that, and I think one of the most amazing, so ATLDP is the Air Traffic Leadership Development Program.
Right.
And this is all about taking a CPC who could possibly be interested in management and putting them through this course to kind of get the other side, what happens on the other side of the fence. And I think one of the most amazing things about that, one of the best success stories about that program that I heard was somebody who went through it, wanted to be, thought they really wanted to be a supervisor, got through it and said, you know what, that is not for me.
And that's a win. You're absolutely
And that's a
right.
huge
Yep.
win
It
because
is.
now you've got an employee who's
Yep.
seen the other side of the fence and understands what management does. We're not just sitting there watching you guys work, I promise. There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on behind the scenes. But I think that's so important because give them that opportunity and you have a better employee because of it, because they've seen that other side. So
Absolutely.
I just got to put in that plug.
No, thank you for that.
Thank you. Trish, did you have something?
I did.
So kind of not necessarily aviation related, but in the spirit of the weekend, what could, my daughter will be 6 in June here, and if anybody else's daughters, but what can I or we do to kind of hit it from the, the ground up? There's a lot of children's programs, the women in aviation and stuff, so to better prepare them to be successful later in life, and not necessarily get in aviation, but whatever she might choose. It's something that's obviously very important to me, so just interested to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, I would say, and I'll jump in, and I think Shelly has something to say too, but let her experience lots of different things. Let her play soccer if she wants to play soccer. Let her be a Boy Scout if she wants to be a Boy Scout. Let her do what she wants, and that way she'll find what she loves, because it's really important in your life. I mean, success to me is not the position you hold, it's how much you enjoy the work that you do and how much of a contribution that you're making. So let her just try everything.
Yeah, my dad was my biggest champion. I mean, he's no longer with me, but he definitely was my biggest champion through life. And it was, you can do anything. And so, I think that just avoiding the stereotypes or setting limits because there shouldn't be gender-based limits. And
Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to know, certainly we all work together quite a bit, and I really, really enjoy our time together. I think we've, done some incredible things. And when you look at the incredible things that you're able to do, you start to think, especially like me, I'm 30 years in now, you start to look at what you're leaving the next generation, and have we given them something to work with? And I think we have. And I'm not a big thing on legacies, that is what it is, but certainly you have to be reflecting as well. So can you kind of give me a little perspective on what maybe you think is the thing you're most proud of as you maybe look back a little bit?
That's a really good question.
this is easy for me. I'll go first so you can think about this. This is very easy. This is very easy for me. And Patty heard some of this a couple weeks ago at OMLDP. We're in the whole labor management relations, the climate of where we stand today versus where we were when I walked into the FAA is vastly different. When I came into the FAA, I'll be honest with you, I feared that maybe I had made a mistake. I was like, oh my goodness, not again. I had just gone through this with the Postal Service. And so being a part of that and being able to contribute to it from the beginning, that thing I was telling you, I want to be on the front end, having participated as a leader in forging that change is something that I am very proud of. And implementing the slate book in the manner that it was implemented, where myself and Dean Icapelli was NACA's lead for implementing the slate book. We made some commitments to each other that anything that wasn't discussed before we put out guidance, we would talk to each other, and we took every single field dispute on ourselves. But what that did was it allowed the parties locally to just focus on the operation and focus on what mattered, and we put out a lot of joint guidance, and it was a career high for me, Trish. 33 years, career high.
So the thing I'm most proud of so far is the people that I've helped get the positions to which they aspire, people whose resumes I've read or applications I've edited, or I've sat with mock interviews or listened when they talked. But the thing I will be most proud of, I hope, when I leave this agency, is having improved the number of women who are in the controllers' ranks.
Yes.
Move that 16%.
And for me, at the sunset probably of my career over the next few years, I mean, I've enjoyed the legacy NAS and all the work that's done, but my eyes are really right now on the future of the NAS, and I hope that over the next 2 years or so, while I'm still involved, I'll be kind of remembered for opening the door for looking at the NAS differently. I think our leadership structure is going to change. The NAS itself is going to change. Our jobs are going to change. Technology's outpacing us, and I just hope I'm part of opening the door to just look at things different for the future.
Well, let's give a big round of applause to these fabulous, fabulous FAA leaders.